Beth Garmaï, East Syriac ecclesiastical province. Metropolitanate of Beth Garmai was an East Syriac metropolitan province of the Church of the East between the 5th and 14th centuries. The region of Beth Garmai Syriac, Bikimi, is situated in northern Iraq, bounded by the Little Zab and Diyala rivers and centered on the town of Karka d Beth Slokh Syriac, Krkd Slwk, modern Kirkuk. Several bishops and metropolitans of Beth Garmai are mentioned between the 4th and 14th centuries, residing first at Shahrgard, then at Karka d Beth Slokh, later at Shahrzur, and finally at Daquqa. The known suffragan dioceses of the metropolitan province of Beth Garmai included Shahrgard, Lashom Khanijar, Mahoze ﷺ, Radani, Hrbath Glal Diyala, Tahal and Shahrzur. The suffragan dioceses of Daquqa and al-Qabba, mentioned respectively by Ilya of Damascus and Mariu, are probably to be identified with one or more of these known dioceses. The diocese of Daquqa, attested in the 8th and 9th centuries, may also have been a suffragan diocese of the province of Beth Garmai. The last known metropolitan of Beth Garmai is attested in the 13th century, and the last known bishop in 1318, though the historian ﷺ continued to describe Beth Garmai as a metropolitan province as late as 1348. It is not clear when the province ceased to exist, but the campaigns of Timur Leng between 1390 and 1405 offer a reasonable context. Background. Before the 14th century, the Kirkuk region was included in the East Syriac metropolitan province of Beth Garmai, one of the 5 great provinces of the interior of the Church of the East. The bishop of Karka d Beth Slokh was recognized as metropolitan of Beth Garmai in Canon Roman 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. He ranked 6th in precedence after the metropolitan bishops of Seleucia, Beth Lapet Nizibis, Prath Dimation, and Erbal, and was responsible for the suffragan dioceses of Shahrgard, Lashom, ﷺ, Radani, and Hrbath Glal. There were several suffragan dioceses in the province of Beth Garmai at different periods. Within Beth Garmai itself, the region between the Lesser Zab and Diyala rivers, there were dioceses for Radani, Shahrgard, Lashom, Shahrzur, and Turhan. All of these dioceses, except Turhan, an outlying diocese in the province of the Patriarch, were in the province of Beth Garmai. The dioceses of Hrbath Glal and Mahoze in the Lesser Zab Valley were geographically in the Erbal region, but seem to have been included in the metropolitan province of Beth Garmai. The seat of the bishops of Mahoze was later transferred to the nearby town of Khanijar, also known as Beth Garmaï, and this diocese still had a bishop in 1318. Within the Beth Garmai region proper, however, only the metropolitan diocese of Daquqa and the diocese of Turhan, the district between the Tigris and Jabal Hamran in the province of the Patriarch, seem to have survived into the 14th century. The last known bishop of Turhan, Shimon, was present at the consecration of Timothy Roman II in 1318, and the diocese may have met its end during Timur's campaigns in the 1390s. No further bishops are recorded in the Kirkuk region until the early years of the 19th century, when a Catholic diocese of Kirkuk, which persists to this day, was established in the 1820s by the patriarchal administrator Augustine Hindi. Later in the 19th century, a second Catholic diocese was established for the Sayner region in Persia, hitherto part of the diocese of Kirkuk. Ilya of Damascus listed 5 suffragan dioceses in the eparchy of Bajarmi in 893, in the following order: Shahrgard, Daquqa, al-Bawazik, Beth Wazik, Darabad and Khanijar, and Lashom. The diocese of al-Qabba in the province of Beth Garmai, not attested elsewhere, is said to have been added to ﷺ, transferred to the province of the Patriarch during the reign of the Patriarch ﷺ I 963-86, in exchange for the diocese of al-Bawazik, Beth Wazik. The diocese of Karka d Beth Slokh. The bishop 噚oka𝖺nüü of Beth Garmai was present at the Council of Nicaea in 325. The bishops 噚 and Isaac of Beth Garmai are mentioned in connection with the persecution of 噚 Roman II 339-79. The bishop Aq, bishop of Karka and metropolitan of Beth Garmai, was present at the Synod of Isaac in 410 and subscribed to its acts. He was also among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Daquqa in 424. The bishop Iohannan, bishop of Karka Beth Slokh, metropolitan of Beth Garmai, was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Acacius in 486. The deacon and secretary Hormizd was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Bavai in 497 on behalf of the metropolitan Biktisho of Beth Garmai. The bishop Daria of Karka Beth Slokh, metropolitan of this town and of all the country of Beth Garmai, was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ḥ'r in 544. The metropolitan Ehezekiel of Beth Garmai adhered by letter to the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The metropolitan Biktisho of Beth Garmai adhered by letter to the Acts of the Synod of ዀigabai in 585. The metropolitan Biktisho of Beth Garmai, perhaps the same man, was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Gregory in 605. The monk Gabriel of the monastery of Beth Abe was consecrated metropolitan of Beth Garmai by the patriarch Slokh 714-28. Originally from Nisibis, he was surnamed Ḥraďuťa, the dancer, on account of his effeminate gait. The monk Ýagaዀ of the monastery of Beth Abe was elected metropolitan bishop of Karka Beth Slokh at an unknown date in the second half of the 8th century or the first half of the 9th century. The metropolitan Theodore of Beth Garmai was present at the consecration of the patriarch Iohannan Roman IV in 900. The metropolitan Ýagaśa of Beth Garmai was one of 3 bishops who went into hiding in 961 in protest against the election of the patriarch Israel. The metropolitan Nestorius of Beth Garmai was present at the consecration of the patriarch Mary on 10 April 987. The metropolitan Shaman, originally bishop of Beth Dare and later bishop of Kashgar, was metropolitan of Beth Garmai when Elijah of Nisibis completed his chronography in 1018-19. The metropolitan Jöhbelah of Beth Garmai was present at the consecration of the patriarch Abdisha Roman II in 1074. The bishop David Ibn Barsaha of Hrbath Glal was consecrated metropolitan of Beth Garmai by the patriarch Abdisha Roman II shortly after his own consecration in 1074. The bishop Thomas, formerly metropolitan of Elam, was consecrated metropolitan of Beth Garmai during the reign of the patriarch Ilya Roman II 1132. The patriarch Abdisha Roman III Ibn al-Makli was metropolitan of Beth Garmai before his consecration as patriarch in 1139, and was present as metropolitan of Beth Garmai at the consecration of the patriarch Bar Soma in 1134. The metropolitan Ilya of Beth Garmai was present at the consecration of the patriarch Jöhbelah Roman II in 1190. The patriarch Sabri was metropolitan of Beth Garmai before his consecration as patriarch in 1226. He was present as metropolitan of Daquqa, Beth Garmai at the consecration of the patriarch Sabri Roman IV in 1222. The metropolitan Ilya of Beth Garmai was present at the consecration of the patriarch Denhai in 1265. The metropolitan Ilya of Beth Garmai, possibly the same man, was present at the consecration of the patriarch Jöhbelah Roman III in 1281. The bishop Shimon of Beth Garmai was present at the consecration of the patriarch Timothy Roman II in 1318. The diocese of Shahrgard. The bishop Paul of Shahrgard was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the metropolitan Aq of Beth Garmai in Canon Roman 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. The bishop Paul of Shahrgard was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 497. The bishop Abraham of Shahrgard was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ḥ'r in 544. The bishop Bar Shabtha of Shahrgard was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The bishop Surin of Shahrgard was among the signatories of the Agreement of Bar Katie in March 598 and the Acts of the Synod of Gregory in 605. The Bishop Abraham of Shahrgard was present at the consecration of the Patriarch 噚Roman IV in 900. The Bishop Abraham, Metropolitan of Macon, when Elijah of Nisibis completed his chronography in 1018/19, was formerly Bishop of Shahrgard. The Diocese of Lashom. The town of Lashom Syriac, Lshwn, was situated 9 hours to the south of Kirkuk, close to the town of Daquqa, which had replaced Karka Beth Slokh as the seat of the Metropolitans of Beth Garmai by the 13th century. Wallis Budge has identified Lashom with the village of Lashom, 3/4 of a mile to the southwest of Daquqa. The bishopate of Lashom was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the Metropolitan ﷺ. He was also among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Daquqa in 424. The Bishop Michael of Lashom was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Acacius in 486. He was among the many Persian bishops educated at the school of Edessa before its closure in 489, and is said to have written a commentary on ዄуваʲణő Kings, a discourse on his predecessor မျိґρυθώ, another on a person named Canthropos, and a tract explaining the division of the Nestorian Psalter into 3 sections. The Bishop Abraham of Lashom was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 497. The Bishop Joseph of Lashom was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 544. The Bishop Saba of Lashom was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The bishop and future patriarch ﷺ of Lashom adhered by letter to the Acts of the Synod of ﷺ in 585. The Bishop Ahishma of Lashom was among the signatories of the Agreement of Bar Katie in March 598. The Patriarch 噚Roman II was Bishop of Lashom before his election and consecration as Patriarch in 776/7. The Bishop Marcos of Lashom was present at the consecration of the Patriarch ՅՈሐնન Roman IV in 900. The Diocese of Khanijar. The Patriarch ՅΟሐنن Roman III 893-9 was earlier Bishop of Khanijar, and was transferred from Khanijar to the Metropolitan Diocese of Mosul during the reign of the Patriarch Enosh 877-84. The Diocese of Mahoze Daroin. The Bishop ՅΟሐنن of Arowan was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the Metropolitan ﷺ of Beth Garmai in Canon Roman 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. The Bishop Ɂува𝖺𝗇̓ of Arowan Brau was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Daquqa in 424. The Bishop Papa of Arowan was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Acacius in 486. The Bishop Narsai of Mahoze Darowan was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The Bishop Samuel of Mahoze Darowan was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The Bishop Kamisho of Mahoze Darowan was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ɂува𝖺 in 585. The Diocese of Radani. The Bishop Narsai of Radani was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the Metropolitan ﷺ of Beth Garmai in Canon Roman 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. He was also among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Daquqa in 424. The Diocese of Hrbath Glal. The Bishop Joseph of Hrbath Glal was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the Metropolitan ﷺ of Beth Garmai in Canon Roman 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. He was also among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Daquqa in 424. The Bishop Buzid of Hrbath Glal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Acacius in 486. The Bishop ዄutaďad of Hrbath Glal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 497. The Bishop Buktisho of Hrbath Glal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 544. The Bishop Gabriel of Hrbath Glal adhered by letter to the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The Bishop ¹ of Hrbath Glal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The Bishop Gabriel of Hrbath Glal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synods of ¹ in 585 and Gregory in 605. An unnamed bishop was consecrated for Hrbath Glal by the Patriarch Sabricio Roman III shortly after his own consecration in 1063/4. The Bishop David Ibn Barsaha of Hrbath Glal was consecrated Metropolitan of Beth Garmai by the Patriarch Abdicio Roman II shortly after his own consecration in 1074. The Diocese of Tahal. The Bishop Bar Hale of Tahal was one of 11 named bishops listed in the Acts of the Synod of Daquqa in 424 as having been reproved at the Synods of Isaac in 410 and ዄτραļahā in 400. The Bishop Abraham of Tahal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synods of Acacius in 486 and Babai in 497. The Bishop Maruth of Tahal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Mar Abai in 544. The Bishop Ḥbrath of Tahal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The Bishop Bakhtiazd of Tahal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ishiabai in 585. The Bishop Kasha of Tahal was among the signatories of the Agreement of Barkati in March 598. The Bishop Piraz of Tahal was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Gregory in 605. The Bishop Abd of Tahal was present at the consecration of the Patriarch 噚ираνο𝖻os Roman IV in 900. The Diocese of Shahrzur. The Bishop Tahman of Shahrzur was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The Bishop Nathaniel of Shahrzur was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synods of Ishiabai in 585 and Gregory in 605. The Bishop Isaac of Shahrzur was present at the consecration of the Patriarch 噚ираνο𝖻os Roman IV in 900. The Bishop Abraham of Shahrzur was appointed Metropolitan of Mason during the reign of the Patriarch Mary 987-99 after the death of the Metropolitan Joseph. The Diocese of Ğauqaÿ. The Bishop 噚براνοؐ of Ğauqaÿ, a town in Beth Garmai, was among the bishops who witnessed a retraction of the Messalian heresy made by the priest Nestorius of the monastery of Mar Yazadac in 790 before his consecration as Bishop of Beth Nuhadra. The Bishop Ḥakaμα of Ğauqaÿ was a contemporary of Thomas of Marga and flourished around the middle of the 9th century. Bishops of unspecified dioceses. The monks Berdisho, Kyriakos, Babai, and Isho of the monastery of Beth Abe were bishops of various dioceses in the province of Beth Garmai at an unknown date in the second half of the 8th century or the first half of the 9th century. Topographical survey. The Beth Garmai region seems to have been at its most flourishing in the 6th and 7th centuries. A number of its towns, villages, and monasteries, many unlocalized, are mentioned in several pre-14th century sources, notably Thomas of Marga's Book of Governors and ẁτρανοန့'s Book of Chastity. These sources mention the districts of Beth and Shainain, Beth Galwaya, Hausa and Rishad, the towns of Karka, Beth Slokh, Kirkuk, Daquqa, Lashom, modern Lashom, Khanijar, all at one time or another the seats of East Syriac bishops, and Karka, the monasteries of Mar Shahulmaran and Mar Ezekiel near Daquqa, and the villages of Kafra. Few of these communities are mentioned after the 11th century, and only 2 seem to have survived into the 14th century. The celebrated monastery of Mar Ezekiel near the town of Daquqa was visited by the monks Rabban Soma and Marcos in 1280, and is almost certainly to be identified with the monastery of Mar Ezekiel in the region of Babylon mentioned in the report of 1610. An East Syriac community seems also to have survived in Kirkuk itself, next mentioned in the 16th century. Isolated East Syriac communities also persisted around Sena, a rare survival beyond the Urmi region of historic East Syriac Christianity in Persia and in Baghdad, once the seat of the East Syriac patriarchs. Towards the end of the 18th century, the historic diocese of Beth Garmai was revived with the establishment of the Chaldean diocese of Kirkuk in 1789. For much of the 19th century, the East Syriac communities of Sena and Baghdad were included in the Chaldean diocese of Kirkuk.